Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Palm Tree Sports. My name is Corey Pujols. I am your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, happy Saturday. For those who are living in the southeast, happy rainy Saturday. It is kind of pouring outside right now, and it looks like it's not going to slow down anytime soon. So this is a full disclosure that if I disconnect from you guys, it's not my idea. It's Mother Nature's, okay? So just want to get that out there. But guys, we got a bit of a packed show today. It's going to be a short show, but a few pivotal things that we're going to talk about, especially in the world of basketball and also the world of baseball. We had the UFC event wrap up earlier today, so I'll touch on that. And of course, we're going to go over or re-enter the conversation we were having last week about the teams in Florida and their schedules as their schedules release. Now, the only big news coming out of the NFL outside of the schedule releasing is the mini camp for rookies, which started this past week for all teams here in Florida, for all the teams pretty much in the entire NFL, actually. So, obviously, we're going to touch on that, what's going on there, but the biggest thing that we're going to focus on is the win-loss ratio between the teams. I touched on it last week. I kind of gave an overview, but here I actually separate, after re-going over everybody's schedule, I separated the losses from the wins, and I specify the losses from the wins because we're going to start with the losses first, because these teams are all playing similar teams this year, which is a very interesting thing. There's going to be a lot of northern teams coming down to Florida, and then vice versa, a lot of Floridian teams traveling up to the cold north, and we're going to touch on all of that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on into it. Let's talk about Tampa Bay, of course, first and foremost. Now, Tampa Bay kicked off minicamp for the rookies this past week. The rookies that Tampa Bay drafted are some pretty solid rookies. I would give this team a draft prospect of somewhere between B plus, A minus, because the pieces that they picked up were all relatively necessary pieces for Tampa Bay, especially to move forward. Now, of course, this is going to be the first year where all of these players get to play together, so it's going to have its bumpy patches, but I do recall saying last week that our defense will win us some games, and I'm going to stand by that. I feel like our defense will return to form to a certain degree. I understand that it's still going to be a work in progress, but I'm optimistic, okay? So, with that being said, Tampa Bay signed 18 undrafted free agents right out of college after day one, okay? So this is going to be a trend you'll see specifically here in Florida and possibly even across the NFL, but I can only speak for the teams for Florida right now, and Tampa Bay signed 18 of them. What does that mean? Well, I'd venture to say that means there is a lot of hopeful expectations for these young players, especially after this team loses its captain, its commander, and Tom Brady, who has since retired, and rightfully so for him. I think it's time for him to sail off into the sunset, not because I want him to, but because I'm very happy with what he was able to do and accomplish, especially here, changing the culture forever in Tampa Bay. So, without him being here, that opens up the space for a lot of these young players to kind of come and put their imprint on the game. Now, for those who were watching the NBA playoffs, you guys saw an older team, my apologies, let me be correct here, but an older team get beat by a relatively younger team. And what do you mean by that, Corey? I'm going to tell you. The Lakers and Golden State went to 6 games. The Lakers really exploded on Golden State by using their younger talent, okay? Austin Reeves, you got D'Angelo Russell back, D'Lo was going off, and then of course you have all of these other young guys, Jared Vanderbilt, you got Looney, not Looney, but Walker, Lonnie Walker IV. So all of these guys are young guys that are showing themselves, that are proving their worth, not just in theory because of their age, but on the court as well. That's what I think is going to happen here in Tampa Bay. The players that were drafted are going to translate directly to the field, and as they translate directly to the field, this schedule is a perfect schedule to identify in 1 year, all right, the pros and cons of this draft class, or really the last 2 draft classes, if you will. So we're going to talk about that. The biggest thing to mention as far as the schedule is concerned is that we have the hard games are the hardest of the hard, right? So we have to play the Niners, we have to play the Jags, we have to play the Bills, and the Eagles. All those games are losses, in my opinion. Those are teams with continuity, teams with multiple Pro Bowlers, and they all have tremendous quarterbacks. So, for a team that is on the rebuild, with some young tenacious players, but still yet on the rebuild, I just don't see us shocking any of those teams. Add to that the Vikings, the Saints, and the Panthers. Now, the Saints and Panthers are division foes. I suspect they will drop a game and win a game against both of those. The sweep will come against Atlanta, in my opinion. That's been the easiest team to sweep in the NFC South. So, that's what I'm going to rock with. I think that the Bucs can beat the Colts, as Anthony Richardson will be a rookie quarterback starting for them, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Of course, his talent could take him to bigger and better things, but we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Would you look at that? That touchdown Houston as we're watching the USFL as well. Deep ball. What a ball. Any case, back to what we're talking about with Tampa Bay. Those are going to be the losses on the season, so to run through those one more time. Vikings, Jags, Bills, Niners, Eagles, Panthers, Saints, possibly the Colts, but I think the Bucs will beat the Colts as we don't lose to too many rookie quarterbacks. If you take away Brock Purdy last year, I think that was the last example of that. Now, it has been a big time for the teams in Florida. Absolutely, yes. We're going to talk about the Heat and the Panthers for sure. They have done phenomenal work in their playoff series, especially the Panthers. So, but we'll get into that in a second. Now, the wins for Tampa Bay to get back on track are going to be Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Titans, Bears, Lions, Texans. I said the Colts, of course, and the Packers. Packers do not have Aaron Rodgers. They don't have pretty much anything. So, I'm not concerned about that team. And then also the Titans, the Bears, the Lions, and Texans, Colts, teams that we don't see on a regular basis. These are all teams that are doing something similar to what Tampa Bay is doing, but I think Tampa Bay is further along the line against all of these teams. The two best chances of any of these teams beating Tampa Bay, in my opinion, would be the Bears and the Lions, as they have the most continuity between the two teams, between these teams that I just mentioned. So I would look for close games against the Bears, the Lions, possibly the Colts, and of course the Panthers and the Saints. So that's what I believe in for the schedule. The NFC South is completely wide open. It basically hinges on Baker Mayfield's playing, and if he does play well, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to win this division. If he doesn't play well, this could be a 3-team stunt, possibly a 4-team stunt, depending on how Atlanta decides to play this year. Now, that's just Tampa Bay. Let's move on over to the Jags, right? So the Jags also started minicamp. No word on how many undrafted free agents they signed there. If anybody has that knowledge, put it into the chat for us, and I'll speak it out here. And speaking of chat, yes, happy birthday to my birthday twin, Lana. Guys, in a quick break in the show real quick, just to give you a background on that. I have a baby cousin who was born exactly 20 years to the day that I was born. We were both born on May 10th. So happy birthday to Lana. I love you. I can't wait to see you again. I hope you had a wonderful birthday party. And as I mentioned, like I said, I can't wait to see you again. I love you guys, and we'll talk soon. Now that we got that out of the way, Jags, back to you guys. Now, the Jags, I think, I mentioned this last week. I'm going to say it again. I think are the best team in Florida right now, okay? They've got some continuity on offense. A lot of continuity now on offense. Spent a lot of money last year, and they drafted well this year. We're going to have to wait and see, of course, how those draft picks, same thing with Tampa, how they translate to the field, although I do think that they will translate very well. The Jags did a good job picking up pieces that they need and not just wasting their draft picks. And yes, in the 2023, we have to use the term wasting draft picks simply because it happens, guys. It happens. If you don't believe me that it happens, look at some of these teams that go draft a receiver or they go draft a tight end and it doesn't work out, and then they end up trading for one or they end up drafting one the following year. You see what I'm saying? That's a perfect example. And I think that it's a process that doesn't require a lot of thought, but it requires good decision making, right? Like, if you need an offensive lineman and you know who the top 5 to 7 offensive linemen are, and you're picking inside the top 20, and there's only been 3 offensive linemen to go, make the best possible decision for your ball club, right? And sometimes we don't see that happen, or sometimes we look at talent, like physical talent, height, weight, stature, footwork, hips, those kind of things, and we allow that to be the driving force behind who you choose based off your picks in the draft. You got to remember the unintangibles, okay? The intangibles, my apologies. That's a perfect example is Tom Brady, right? We talk about him all the time, how he was a 6th-round draft pick. That's an example of having, all the intangibles that's necessary. The decision-making, the poise, being calm under pressure, knowing who your outlet is at. If nobody's open, dumping the ball down. You guys know Tom Brady became the greatest quarterback of all time because he knows how to just throw the ball to the running back out of the backfield, guys. And he's not trying to force a ball into double or triple coverage. That's really the difference between Tom Brady. He's going to check you at the line. He's going to realize you're blitzing, what side you're blitzing from. He's going to roll the protection over, and then if there's nobody open in the first 2 to 3 seconds, he's looking at his running back. And that's a smart thing to do, guys. I mean, just look at some of the other guys who do that right now. Patrick Mahomes has gotten increasingly better at it himself, and as a result, look at that. He won a Super Bowl. Another Super Bowl, I should say. So, guys, that's just a perfect example of what I mean by that. The Jaguars have that in Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is maturing every year. He's only getting better and better. And the thing about him is he has the ability not to let the play before him affect the play after. Okay? And that's a gift you can't really teach. That's something that you're born with. That is something that you can develop, but you can't be taught it. You see what I'm saying? It's something that lies within. It's an ability, and it's a great one to have. So Trevor Lawrence has that. I'll look forward to what he's able to do this year. As I mentioned, we're going to start with the losses, and then we're going to review the wins. The losses that I have on paper for the Jags all come via continuity, as I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Bengals, Ravens. They're going to drop a game against the Titans. They'll drop a game against the Colts. Guys, division games for me don't really count because these teams know each other better than other teams, right? So if you guys remember, I'm going to give you an example. Back in 2002, Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. Atlanta went on an 8-game winning streak, okay? In the middle of the season, Michael Vick just went off. He just went nuts. He's just single-handedly beating these teams one team at a time, and he's doing it with his legs primarily. I mean, yeah, his arm was pretty good for a rookie, but his legs were the primary function behind Atlanta's potent offense at that time. And what happens? Runs into Tampa Bay the first game, gets jacked up, knocked out of the game. What happens in the second game? He goes, 125 yards passing, no touchdowns, no rushing touchdowns, and 25 yards on the ground? He got smoked. He was destroyed. So that is an example of what I mean when I'm speaking on what happens in the division, right? Just because a team can get hot in the division doesn't mean another team in that division can't tear them back down because they know each other. They play each other twice every year. They know each other personally inside and out of the game. So if we're going to take away the Colts and the Titans games, obviously the Chiefs, the Bills, the Niners, the Bengals, and the Ravens all have better continuity than the Jags. They all have players who have been with the program 2, 3, 4 years now at this point and longer. Chiefs probably are still the best team in the AFC, barring the Bengals. 49ers are clearly the best team in the NFC. That's not up for discussion. So those are going to be the games that I see them dropping. Ravens, Lamar Jackson just got a big contract. If he stays healthy, there's no reason why I don't see him taking the Ravens back to the playoffs. So that right there are my losses for the Jags this year. Of course, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags decide to sweep the Titans and the Colts. So those two, again, like I said, division battles right there, okay? I would assume that they're heavy favorites to win it just because of the fact that, everybody else is bad in that division. Everybody else is pretty bad. I mean, I don't see the Texans doing much this year. They got some good, young, promising players, but they're all rookies. And the NFL isn't nice to rookies. I mean, very rarely does a rookie come in and do the Justin Herbert or the JB, you know what I'm saying? Like Joe Burrow doing Russell Wilson back in the day. These young players, they come a dime a dozen. Brock Purdy last year for the 49ers. You see what I'm saying? So I don't suspect that the AFC South is going to be much of a threat for the Jags. And like I said, depending on how they play, they could just decide to sweep all three of their, division opponents this year, which I would not be surprised. Keep in mind that if they do that, I only have them losing again. Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Bengals, Ravens. That's 5 losses, all right? So they could potentially be going 12-5, guys. So just something to keep in mind. If we see the Jaguars explode this year, don't be surprised. As for the wins basically come via every other team they just have it that, didn't mention right there. Texans, Falcons, Saints, Steelers, Browns, and Panthers, I believe it is. Those are all pretty much going to be wins for the Jaguars. Again, continuity by itself should lead to victory for those teams, or for the Jaguars over those teams. So that's just something to keep your eyes out for. Again, good luck Jags this year. I can't wait to see what they're able to do, but I fully suspect that they will win the AFC South handily this year. So moving on to the Finns now. The Finns, who are in the most confusing spot. They have one of the best rosters in the NFL. However, I've mentioned before that the quarterbacking issue, or the lack of protection for that quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, has been a subject of discussion now for many weeks, for us, for many other people, just because of how scary it was for him last year. We know that when Tua's on the field, that this offense is a top 5 offense and the team can just flat out win and they can fly. However, excuse me, my apologies, guys. When he's not on the field, the team is just a question mark, right? Especially knowing that they had so many injuries to backup QBs last year. So they signed 21 undrafted free agents out of college after day one. That's the Finns who did that, okay? So that's a little bit different for them. They're freeing up a lot of space. They actually waived a couple of guards this past week. So they're creating space for this young talent, for these people to come in and be able to fight for their jobs. This is something that I like across the board. I wish more teams would do this more consistently, simply because you don't know how good your young talent is until you put them in there. And sometimes you're going to have to learn on the way. So that's what pretty much is what's going on down there in Miami. Again, Miami drafted pretty okay. They didn't have a lot of draft picks. If I'm not mistaken, they had the least amount of draft picks out of all the teams here in Florida. But it is what it is. They couldn't draft first round because of Tyreek Hill trade. So you get what I'm saying there. The players that they did get and the undrafted free agents that they did sign, or they're going to be leaning on, especially now that the rookie minicamp has started, and this is going to be where a lot of the players really start to make, their presence felt around the locker room and also around campus, right? Because you have the vets who are going to come in, they already know what to do. They've been there, done that. So with that being said, let's move on to the win-loss for the Finns. We're going to start with the losses first. So obviously I have them dropping games against the Pats and the Bills. That's division. So again, that's just something you expect. Same thing with the Jets. I think they're going to split. Part of the reason why I say I think they're going to split is because now this division actually has some meat to it. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers was traded to the Jets. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is quite done. He's not a dead man yet. So I suspect that he's going to play good football at least half the year. At least half the year. So that includes games against the Finns, Pats, and the Bills. So I have obviously them splitting in the division. However, outside the division, all right, they have to play the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Cowboys, and possibly the Chargers. I put the Chargers at a maybe because that's the Chargers. As much as I love that team out west, or I have the respect that I have for that team out west, I love Justin Herbert as a football player. Justin Herbert is very inconsistent, and should he fall behind and have to be heroic, it's questionable if he can do that against a team the caliber of the Dolphins, okay? So I put that as a maybe. It's important to know that it is a maybe because outside of that, again, it's just the same old, which I mentioned these teams earlier having to play against the Bucs and the Jags, okay? Eagles, Chiefs, Ravens. So a very similar, tune that we're seeing here. These are some of the best teams in the league, and I suspect that they'll be some of the best teams in the league no matter what. So those are the losses that I have for the Finns. As far as the wins go, of course, I said that they'll split. So Pats, Bills, and the Jets, they will take games there against all of those teams, of course. And then outside the division, I see them knocking out the Broncos, the Giants, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Commanders, and the Titans. Okay, so all of these teams are lacking continuity, which is the same thing that Miami has a pretty good deal of. Let's just be honest, the only team in Florida that doesn't have much continuity is the Buccaneers, and that's because of Tom Brady retired. So Jags and Finns, I think, will be in a much better place than the Buccaneers will. However, if the Bucs play well, they could potentially be right up there in the mix as well with these other two teams, the Finns and the Jags. So I look forward to seeing what the Finns are able to do. I'm really excited about the Jags, and I really hope that Tampa Bay can make the most out of having Baker Mayfield. I'm not sleeping on Baker Mayfield. I watched him in college. The guys that he had are similar to the guys that he has now. Only the guys that he has now are more talented, with more experience, and they've won a Super Bowl, so they know what it takes. So hopefully they can bring that energy to Baker and help him be as best a quarterback as he can possibly be. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens throughout the rest of this mini camp as we head into summertime training, which is going to be hard. It's going to be dense, but they're going to need it. All right. And with that being said, yes, the Chargers-Dolphins game is going to be a nuts game. I really do hope they make that a primetime game as well. I'd love to watch that on Sunday night. I really think that could be one of the games that is like a game of the week kind of deal. If for those who watch NFL Network, they do a game of the week. They re-air it so you can, for your pleasure. They do multiple games of the week now, but you get what I'm saying. Dolphins-Chargers is going to be a fire game. Can't wait to see how that one turns out. Guys, when we get back, we're going to jump into the NBA, we're going to jump into the MLB, and we're going to talk about what's going on in hockey as well. Then we'll wrap things up with MMA as fight night already concluded here on this Saturday afternoon. Thank you again for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the man with the legend himself, Larry over at 3 and Out, who is our inspiration here at IE Sports Radio. He's a guy that I take a lot of notes from, a guy that I try to emulate. He does a fantastic job on his show, and if you haven't checked it out, now's the time. Consider this a message to go check out his show at 3 and Out, guys. But welcome back to Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and is brought to you by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. And as I mentioned before the break, guys, we would get right into what was going on in the NBA. And that is playoff basketball, guys. What's going on in playoff basketball? Well, the Heat. More specifically, Jimmy Butler is what's going on. This guy looks like the best NBA player in the league. Let's just call it like what it is. He's an absolute monster. 50-point ball game in the middle of the series just to kind of knock the Knicks flat on their behinds. And to say the least, they knocked him out in 6, guys. How about that? Miami and Los Angeles knock out, their rivals respectively in the East and in the West in 6 games each. Are we headed towards a bubble repeat NBA championship, Heat versus Lakers, JB versus LeBron one more time? Question mark, question mark, question mark, guys. Just something for you to think about. All right, we had this finals a few years ago, and yeah, Bam was a monster. But then, see, here's the thing. We know Bam can be a monster. He just has to show up and be that monster. Just like AD. Him and AD are very, very similar. You see what I mean? When they show up, their teams look unbeatable. When they don't show up, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's like 2 games on, 1 game off, you know, or is it every other game and then like other people step up? But you get what I'm saying. Long story short, when Bam shows up, that team is scary, to say the least. And his defensive prowess is masterful. All right? It's just absolutely something to behold. And I'm glad we get to see it. I'm glad he's here in Miami and not somewhere else, to say the least. With that being said, they're going to play the winners of this Game 7 between the Celtics and the Sixers. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care which one of these teams win. I got the Heat knocking them out in Eastern Conference Finals. I don't care. Go Heat. Heat Nation, stand up. I believe in the Miami Heat. It's very simple. Okay, Eric Spoelstra, every week I get on here and say he's a phenomenal head coach. I'm going to say it again, because I feel like they forget about him. He's a phenomenal head coach, and he's showing it. Look at the tools that he has. Look what he's doing with Miami. You gotta love it, all right, guys? So, personally speaking, I don't care for the Celtics or the Sixers. Yeah, I don't care about either of them. Yep, I don't care who wins. Hopefully the 76ers, just because I want to see Boston get knocked out. Yeah, go Sixers. Screw it. Go Sixers. Knock out Boston. That's how I feel. Regardless, like I said, I have the Heat showing up and showing out in the Eastern Conference Finals. I believe that they will be taking the cake, and I believe that it will be the Heat versus the Lakers again. Yes, they did. This was a very similar meeting to what was going on in the bubble as well. I remember that because Murray got hurt. Yeah, Murray got hurt, and that kind of changed the early dynamic of the way that series finished against the Lakers. But I will say this. The Lakers have a better team than they did during that year, right? This team is just nuts, right? Like, let's talk about what they've done since the trade deadline. I mean, look at D'Angelo Russell. He's been going absolutely nuts. Lonnie Walker's been showing up, right? Austin Reeves looks like the guy's in his second year in the league, guys, and he's running this Lakers offense to the T. He looks phenomenal. He's got ice in his veins. I love this kid, all right? Anthony Davis, like I said, when he shows up, the team is almost unbeatable. Whew. This is going to be a good series. These last 3 series are going to be phenomenal, right? Eastern Conference, Western Conference, and then NBA Finals. I can't wait. I'm glad we're all on the same page too, guys. Screw Boston. Let's go Sixers. You know what I'm saying? Let's go Sixers. So I'm gonna try to watch every game of these series as they come up, and hopefully I won't miss any of them, because like I said, this is going to be some really good basketball. This may be some of the best basketball we've seen all year long, to be completely honest. And like I said, I have the Heat getting past whoever it is that wins that Game 7. Both of those teams are going to be tired. Having to travel down to Miami is no easy feat in the East. So, needless to say, go Heat, go Heat, go Heat. And we'll go Lakers. You know, I'm not going to go too into detail about it, but go Lakers. So, let's move on over to the MLB. We got some things to talk about with the Rays. Not good things, though, guys. Now, normally I'll be coming here telling you hottest team in baseball. They are the hottest team in baseball still. I mean, they, still on fire. The fire is kind of dousing down a little bit, though, guys. And that's because of injuries, all right? Let me talk to you real quick. The Rays sitting at 30-11 right now. All right, they just lost to the Yankees. The Yankees are sitting at 23-18. They're looking like they're trying to surge a little bit, all right? And they lost 8-9, one-run ball game. You guys know how I feel about one-run ball games. And what is that quote from Carter? Was it Joe Carter? I think it was 1993 World Series. Great baseball teams win run ball games. Okay, I'm gonna live by that quote until I'm old and wrinkled. All right. Got to win those run ball games. It's a stinger for me whenever a hockey team or a baseball team loses a one puck or one run ball game, and it's just that was what happened there. So they lost. I'm over it, it is what it is. That's the end of that series against the Yanks. We're headed over to the next series. But these injuries, guys, I didn't even take the time to go over what's going on next in the series, and I wish I would have for a second, but this is more important right here, guys. We've got some serious injuries here, all right? So the shortstop Franco is hurt. Rasmussen is hurt. Glasnow is hurt. Fairbanks, Clevenger, all right, among others. These are some big names for the Rays. All right, these are some big names for the Rays. A couple are going in Tommy John surgery. They're done for the season. Obviously, Franco left the game yesterday with neck issues. Guys, this is the one thing that stops tremendous teams in any sport. It doesn't matter what sport you're watching, what sport you're supporting, what team you're supporting. As good as any team has ever been, ever. Use the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for an example. We won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. What happened the next year? We had 15 people on injury reserve at one point, including the entire receiving corps. Like, everybody. Like, we brought guys from the practice squad up to play football. That's what's happening to the Rays right now. There's going to be a lot of shuffling of the ball pin. Rosarena's still good to go, but there's the drama surrounding him, and, you know, the league wants to make him out to be some type of stage-stealing baseball combatant. Hey, look, people have opinions on everything. I don't care what they have to say. Rosarena's been playing like an MVP. Lyle's been playing like an MVP. Guys, we still have some very good players on the team that can still get stuff done. We're going to have to win behind defense and great pitching, and that's just something that I hope we're going to be able to do moving forward because, like I said, these injuries are no easy thing. And at first, it started to look like, you know, injury here, injury there. Okay, yeah, you expect those things, but now they're just kind of stacking up. Especially with Franco leaving yesterday. He's going to be out for a little bit, if at the very least just to recoup and recover. All right, so Rays, we love you. Get healthy, guys. Just get healthy. We'll be all right if you drop a couple of games, but let's get the ball pin back in order. You know, let's get healthy again. Let's focus on taking care of ourselves and not getting hit by stray pitches and things like that. You know, obviously, you can only do what you can do, right? But I hate whenever we see a team being as successful as the Rays started this year, setting records out the wazoo, and then it's injury. It's not us beating ourselves. I mean, it's nice to know that it's not us beating ourselves, but injury, you never know how somebody's going to come back, first and foremost. Secondly, you don't know how long they're going to be out. Third, rehabilitation can be a bitch, right? Like, we just got to call it like what it is. So, good luck to all those who are injured. We're praying for you. You know, we love you guys. Get back healthy. We can't wait to see you all return, and hopefully sooner than later. For those who are having season-ending surgery, we're with you. We'll see you next year, or we'll see you, you know, when you're healthy again. But like I said, it's just a heartbreaker whenever your team's doing this well and it's injury that sets them back. Now, that's going to be it for baseball, guys. Like I said, we had a pretty short show today because of the lack of let's just call it like what it is. The lack of what's going on in college football right now. Everybody's in practice mode. Depth charts aren't even set up yet. We don't know starters until summertime. And right now it's just getting all the quirks out, right? Like let's just be honest. This is where the best and the worst football is being played at the college level right now, because once the season starts, everybody's going to know their job. They're going to know their position. They're going to know where they're going to be at. So as we get closer to that, we'll start to bring it back into the mix slowly but surely. But until then, guys, we're going to let everything develop in front of us, keep it all in front of us, and go from there. Touchdown Houston again scoring on Birmingham. They took the lead on the last touchdown, 14-13. Go ahead and make it 20-13 Houston. 3:21 to go in the fourth for those who are watching the USFL, guys. And mind you, just because we don't have NFL football doesn't mean we don't have quality football on, because this game's been going back and forth. It looks like Houston's starting to separate themselves here at the end of the fourth. So good job to them. Now, getting back on track, let's talk about the NHL. Now, it's funny because I don't normally cover the Panthers, right? The Florida Panthers, the hockey team. Now, it's not because I don't want to. I'm just not as knowledgeable as I am about the Bolts and what they've been able to do, what they've been able to accomplish, especially over the last 3-4 years and in their history, their short history. But the Panthers, man, hey, look, thank you, Panthers. Yes, we saw what you did. We're the next door neighbors who are looking over the yard, you know, to see what all that noise and ruckus is. And when we found out that the noise and the ruckus was you guys beating the Leafs in 5 games, what did Shannon Sharp say? Blah, 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 Panthers in 5. Okay? That's all I know. Good job, Panthers. Way to get some payback for the Bolts. somewhere over there in Iceland, they're sitting there clapping, they're happy. Congratulations on moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals for the NHL. Hopefully you guys can pull this out. They were able to do it behind a 3-2 victory in overtime against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So thank you for getting payback, revenge, whatever you want to call it. Thank you for knocking out the Leafs. We don't like them down here at all. They're a dirty team. They're a nasty team. They need therapy. So, yeah. Somebody tell Toronto I said that. Anyway, next, they're going to be facing the Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Finals. I look forward to seeing how that's going to go. I think they can win, of course. Of course, I think they can win. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Hurricanes been playing some good hockey all season long, to say the least. I think that they can take it in 6. Hard pressed for me to see it going 7, but I wouldn't be surprised, especially the way the series have been going. Let's go Panthers. And again, congratulations on knocking out Toronto and making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. You guys are representing, making Florida look phenomenal, and we are very proud to be a part of it. And I know, like I said, the Bolts are sitting there praising you guys as well. Good job for getting payback on them. You know, they deserve to lose, Toronto, that is. So, that's that. Again, they will be playing the Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Finals, and that will be the wrap-up of hockey over on the East before the Stanley Cup Final takes off, and we'll have to wait and see how that goes. So, and that's exactly what we'll be doing. So, moving on to the final bit part of the show today, guys. UFC Fight Night already took place. It was earlier today, so there's not... everything's super condensed today, so with that being said, the Fight Night ended. There were a lot of finishes, guys. A lot of finishes. So you have the ESPN app. Go on there, check it out. It was a good card. It was actually really from a stature performance, right? Like putting the fights together. It's a phenomenal card. You had guys like Ian Gary on there, who's 12-0 now. A tremendous prospect out of oh God, where's Conor McGregor from, you guys? I had it and I lost it. Anyway, he looks up to Conor McGregor, ironically speaking. That's somebody that he's met a few times, and they have a good powwow as far as it's concerned, being from being from the same country. So congratulations to Ian Gary on his knockout victory. I think he scored knockout of the night with that. And of course, submission of the night most likely going to go to Almeida, who subs Rosenstruck in the first round via rear naked choke. Guys, that's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for you, all right? At the end of the day, that's the reason why Judo and BJJ are considered the best 2 martial arts to study, because you can win fights without taking damage or little to no damage, and that's exactly what Almeida did. So congratulations to him. He is now 5-0 inside the UFC with a 100% finish rate. He's now in the top 10, and he'll be looking to climb into the top 5 as well. So aside from that, like I said, great card. Couple of canceled fights. One of those, Hill versus... I don't have it up, unfortunately, but the fight between Hill and... what's her name? I can't remember her name. Anyway, that fight got moved to a main event card. 2 other fights got canceled, so the fight night was a little bit shorter than to be expected. Nonetheless, still was a good fight. I was able to catch a couple of the fights, and the ones that I missed, I saw the highlights from. So, as I mentioned before, go check it out if you're looking for something to watch. As far as what else to watch for tonight, I think all that's left is Game 7 for the Celtics and the Sixers. So if you're looking for something to watch, that'll be something that's on the checkout. Tomorrow is going to be more baseball. I didn't get the times for the games, so I apologize for that, guys. I will do better with that next week, and I'll be back with that information directly. But like I said, we got baseball tomorrow, more USFL football tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, and I think that's it, because like I said, no UFC Fight Night tonight, so as it's already wrapped up. And with that being said, guys, that is going to wrap it up for our show today. Thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday afternoon. Thank you guys for listening to Palm Tree Sports, listening to the content that we're bringing to you. And as I said, as things start to evolve a little bit more into the future, I'll have more information. I'll have more to share, especially as we get closer and closer to training camp for football, and as well as the middle of the season for other games such as baseball and the NBA Finals, which is around the corner in 2 weeks. All right, guys, so get ready for that. We'll be covering all of that here on Palm Tree Sports. Again, my name is Corey Pujols. I am your host, and it has been my pleasure to talk to you guys for the last 40 minutes or so. I look forward to seeing you guys back here at the same place, same time next week, Saturday, 6 p.m., all right? And that's Eastern Standard Time. If you guys want to get up with me on Twitter, I'm always there talking sports, talking pretty much anything that's being opinionated on. So, at Corey Pujols, I'll be there looking for the messages. I look forward to talking to you guys, and I look forward to speaking to you guys again next week. As always, it is brought to you by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Guys, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Spend time with your family. Be safe. Mind the weather, all right? And most of all, love each other. I'll see you next time. Have a great evening.